What is up, YouTube? Hopefully you guys are doing great. The Halloween Horror Night season is in full swing. We're now rolling into like the third week of the event, and this video is kind of long overdue. I usually do this every year. I try to do like a opening weekend thoughts, sort of a mini review, and then something kind of midway, and then a wrap up at the end, and then like a final review. So this is sort of my open weekend thoughts, impressions type of video. So you guys kind of hinted and talked about you wanted to see sort of a mini review but with no spoilers. So that's what this is going to be. I'm going to go over the houses, the zones, the shows. I saw it all opening weekend, and talk a bit about everything, but without spoiling all the surprises that are in store for you in case you're coming the third weekend or in October. So first up, we're going to tackle the shows. For me, Bill and Ted, let's knock this out. Some of the jokes are good. Some of them I think are not really good. Well, I can't spoil anything, so some stuff is good, some stuff is not good. Overall, I think it's a decent show. It's not the best. It's not something I'm to go back and see again. I've seen it twice now, and I think I'm pretty much good. I'm not the biggest Bill and Ted. I'm not the biggest Bill and Ted fan. I know there's a market, there's fans out there for it. For me, I kind of enjoy some parts of it, usually every year, but usually overall it's like I see it once and I'm done. So Academy of Villains, if you do not know, they were supposed to do a big grand show like they did last year called Afterlife, but due to Hurricane Irma, they had to readjust things and do a 10-minute show that is featured in front of the horror makeup show. Now they're going to be switching over to their basically main stage, doing a new type of show, which is not after show from what I'm hearing. It's sort of like the 10-minute show but expanded maybe a bit. So we're gonna see how that's gonna look when it debuts this weekend. So the Afterlife 10-minute show is really great. They do a nod to last year. They do a small little nod in there, and then they do some really cool like crowd interaction dance battle thing. That is covering the show. So we're going to talk about the scare zones. For the hype list was Invasion was number 5, Altars of Horror, The Purge, then Festival, then Trick or Treat. We'll dive into that list just like that. Invasion, cool concept. Some of the colors look great. Some of the interaction is really cool there, but it's a very tiny zone. Like you go through it and you're like out of it. Like it's almost like I wish it would have been longer somewhere else. But yeah, cool interactions, but not much. Let's see, Altars of Horror. The zone over opening weekend stayed pretty much the same. It was a bunch of the characters. It was like you walk through and it's like a couple characters here, a couple characters from this property, and really that's it. You kind of wonder like, why is this zone there? No offense to all the scare actors in the zone, they do a good enough job, but it's more like a photo op, sort of like children's zone. Like you could take a child through it and they probably wouldn't get too scared of it. So I wish there was so much more in the zone. The Purge is much like what we've had before. No really surprises in there. A few new things sprinkled in there, which is cool, but I feel like Sting Alley was kind of a waste. And then they had these cars that were featured in, I believe, the third Purge movie or the second. I believe it was the third. They don't really add too much value. Some of the characters are there. They're just okay. Festival of the Deadliest. Now this is the zone that opening weekend everyone hated. Everyone said, what in the world is going on? Because Universal did not have the zone ready to go. Due to Hurricane Irma, there was a lot of stuff that needed to be added on. By the second weekend, you can see in the video that they added the stages. They have the dancers. They have a stage in the middle. So they have a lot added to the zone, so I think a lot of people are now going to start loving the zone. I'm kind of glad that I put it at my number 2, even though opening weekend everybody kind of gave me nothing but crap about that. Wow, you put it your number 2. Look at this zone, it's so terrible. But now I think people are going to start realizing like, wow, this is a really good zone. Trick or Treat is just like I predicted. It's good, it's great. The Sams in there look a little not good. For my taste, I don't think they look like the mannequin Sams. That's just a small little thing. The rest of the zone is okay. The princesses, if you've seen the movie The Werewolf Princesses, or if you haven't seen the movie, then ignore what I just said. I don't think they're really that great looking as far as their makeup. I think they could have did something so much better with them. That's my only really knock about that zone, but that's it. Let's move on to the houses. Now the houses, my list went from the Hive, Ash, Saw, The Shining, Fallen, Blumhouse, American Horror Story, Scarecrow, and Dead Waters. Let's start with the Hive. The Hive is an interesting house. I heard a lot of bad things and I did not get to see that house until the second night of the event. I'm kind of warming up to it. I really enjoy it. I don't think it's like mind-blowing like another house that's next door to it, but I don't think it's that bad like people were making it out to be. It's a fun house. It's just a fun basic vampire house. They do some kind of cool lighting effects in it, but you kind of have to catch that at the right time. Alright, let's move on to Ash versus Evil Dead. This house was very low on my list, and I think it's going to stay somewhere around there unless I just have some great run-throughs. I think the house is fun. It's a comedy house. It has some decent scenes, but overall I think you just kind of lose the value in it. I mean, you go through, it was fun, it's like forgettable. Like you do it once maybe and that's it. Like you don't really care to probably go back, especially because the walk to the house I think hurts the house very much so, because the walk is over 5 minutes long and then you go through the house, then you got to walk like 5 minutes back. That just doesn't set it up to be a good experience. Saw, I only got to do Saw I think one time over opening weekend. It seemed like a decent house. It seemed just like what we had in 2009 as far as Saw house. Nothing really different. The scene that was supposed to be from the new Saw movie, I feel like Hollywood did that so much better than ours. Sorry about that. But other than that, it's about what I expected. The Shining is a little better than what I expected. I'm warming up to it. It's sort of a really, really fun house, at least for me, because I've kind of mapped it out. I learned where all the scare actors are, so it's not scary, it's more so of a fun house. It did handle the movie a lot better as far as a house version than I thought it was going to handle, so there's that. There's some say hi to the bartender if you go in there early. The Fallen is a surprising one. I had it at number 5, and it's got some good things, it's got some okay things. The whole premise about light and versus dark, I don't really get it. All I'm seeing is demons and whatever these things are supposed to be. I think it's not clear enough of a story and featured throughout the house. It's just kind of like, hey, we're in this thing, there's a bunch of monsters. Like that's about basically as the story goes. There are some cool flight elements. I'm not going to say what they are, but you have to catch them at the right time or else the house feels just sort of okay. Next, the Blumhouse featuring Jason Blum's horror movies that made a lot of money. So we have Insidious, we have The Purge, and we have Sinister. Without ruining too much, this house, I enjoyed it from the first time I went through it. I enjoyed it the last time I went through it, and I went back to back. There's a certain hallway, and if you hit it at the right time, it is like, wow. Insidious part in there is fantastic. Almost makes me want a full Insidious house. So there we go. American Horror Story, super duper long, like so long that you start to get out of the element of the house and you start thinking, wow, I'm still in this house. Like, that was my thought. Some of the portions are a little disjuntled. I would have loved a little more Coven and some more different things from the Coven, but Asylum is a big one and Roanoke is decent. There we go. Scarecrow, number 2, The Reaping. Wow, wow, wow. That's all I can say. Terrifying, excellent. Wow. Best house, probably, of the event this year. Yeah. Dead Waters. Dead Waters, Dead in the Water, Dead People, Water, New Orleans, Experience, Adventure. This house, good facade, great lead up. Some of the stuff in the house is fantastic to see. The design team just outdid themselves with this house. But by the second weekend, this house sort of starts taking a dip for me. Like, when I first went in, I was wild, I was awed, I enjoyed myself, and then the more I go through it, the more it's just kind of in the middle for me. It's just, it ends way too short, and I feel like for this being the Voodoo Queen's house, I think you only see her once, maybe twice in the entire house. Kind of sucks, but maybe it'll get better. Maybe the scares will be amped up, but some of the scares are good, some of the effects are good, but like I said, it's a very short house. Like, you're gonna walk out of there and be like, the house is already over? Wow. Overall, for opening weekend, I would say it's very good year. The houses are the very, very strong point. The zones are, overall, they can use some work here and there. We're still having a lot of problems as far as the zones, as far as stretching out the idea between entertainment and between it being a scare zone and it kind of being a cater to social media and photography and all this aspects that are a part of this event. And I think for Horror Nights, they have to kind of find the right balance in there. You have zones like Festival the Deadliest, which are really extravagant and they have such a deep story, but it doesn't translate to the zone and really it leaves everybody kind of like, what's going on here? Also, it's so like red. Like, why red? It makes all the footage look really not that great. Trick or Treat is awesome. I love that the characters still perform. They don't really stop for photos. Like in Altars of Horror, they're kind of like, hey, you have a camera, I'm gonna like go towards it or like take pictures with you. And that's another discussion for another time, maybe for a future video. But that is it for my overall thoughts on Halloween Horror Nights 2017. Opening weekend, what are your thoughts? Leave them down in the description. No, leave them down in the comment section if you've been to the event, or if you have any questions you want me to answer. Maybe like you don't like strobes and you want to know what house features or what house is the scariest or what house you should probably do first, or those type of questions. Leave them down in the comment section and I'll be sure to answer them. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Leave it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, for more Halloween Horror Nights 27 stuff is on the way. Till next time, guys, Zombie Chris is out.